What's happening, everyone? It is Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Today I wanted to talk about how you can save some money on your custom binding. It is the year of custom binds here at the Hardcover Comic. What that basically means, if you're new to the channel, if you're very curious about what custom binding is, it is basically taking a number of sheets of paper. They could be, stapled together, whatever it may be. They may still be single issues in this case, trade paperbacks if we're talking comic books, even compendiums, if you will, even something as large as a compendium. And you're taking that and those loose sheets of paper and you're putting them into a hardcover bound book, sewn binding, defab glued, whatever you're into, and you basically have this nice hardcover collection of what could have been before single issues or trade paperbacks, whatever it may be, loose pieces of paper that you've decided you want to put together and preserve in a buckram bind or a graphic cover bind, if you will. Whatever you do with your loose sheets of paper, that's up to you. But basically I wanted to talk about great ways and easy ways to save money when you're doing custom binding, things that may cost you a little more time, a little more effort, but in the long run it saves you money and you have a good time doing it. Of course, without getting into custom binds too deeply, there are still first of all, let's spin it this way. There are prerequisites when it comes to binding a book. The first prerequisite is trade paperbacks, and a great way to get new releases for probably the best price you can find them online upon release without waiting years and years for them to depreciate in value is to check out organicpricebooks.com, a fantastic website. They're the sponsor of our show. They're the sole provider of mine and Matt's official releases now. That's the first place we go whenever we're looking to order a new book, is organicpricebooks.com, because with the code THC2 you get an extra $2 off every single one of your orders. Use it every single time you place an order with organicpricebooks.com. They're fantastic. Shipping is quick. They have incredible deals. You can pre-order. The inventory is expanding, the selection's expanding more and more, week by week, month by month. It's really, really awesome. A great service. I know Matt's gotten a bunch of packages. We've seen the packaging. It's incredible. Really, really good stuff. Check out organicpricebooks.com. And now, without further ado, let's get into some custom bind talk. Great ways for y'all to save money, a little bit of money when you're making your custom binds. Custom binding can get very, very expensive very, very quickly. For one, you have to get the source material, whatever it is that you're going to bind, whether it's single issues, trade paperbacks, compendiums, whatever it may be. Got to get that. You got to get it actually bound, and then you need all the frills, right? Whatever you want to make your custom bind as perfect as you'd like it for your collection. So I have a handful of tips. The first one, I whipped out my Justice League Generation Lost custom bind for this because of the many binds I have. This is one that I actually followed this rule for. So one thing you can do, definitely when you're considering getting the source material, is try to spend like $1.25 per comic, $2 at most per comic. It may limit your choices on what you can get, but you should also, in that case, consider things like complete collections, trade paperbacks. I mean, most trade paperbacks, you're paying like, maybe, or I think it's around $2 at most, $3, depending on what publisher it is for each issue, which is not terrible. You get to skip out on ads in there as well. So you're saving yourself a little bit more money because you can add more content into the bind as a result. But definitely, this is again, if you're trying to save money, you're probably not too concerned with using original issues, things like that. If you're trying to bind, key issues into one volume, then this rule is probably going to be negligible for you because those are all expensive. And if you want to do that, that's your choice. But first rule that I always do is looking at complete collections. Even if they're damaged, it's just the front and the back that are damaged. You're going to take those off for the bind anyway. As long as the pages are fine on the inside, there's not really much to worry about. So I'd say $1.25 if you can find issues in lots for that kind of price. That's probably a great place to start saving yourself money. Another thing is prepping yourself. A lot of places will charge you for having to prep your books, whether that's removing staples, removing any additional advertisements, pages like that, organizing these books in a certain way. They charge you for all that stuff. So the more you can do yourself, the more money you'll save, depending on your bindery as well. And really that goes for everything, right? Like the more you outsource the work for a custom bind, the more it's going to cost you most likely. This is a God Hates Astronauts custom bind that I happened to purchase at a Planet Comic Con. This is not a bind that I had made, but it shows you a graphic cover. Graphic covers typically tend to be more expensive at a bindery as well. So if you're looking to save money on the actual bind itself, consider going with a classier, cleaner, buckram bind look. Get yourself some nice text on the spine. You're gonna pay money for die stamps, so avoid those as well. If you ever want a graphic cover for it, you can always make a dust jacket sometime in the future. But if you do need graphic covers, try to do it yourself. There are a lot of great apps, softwares out there that let you do this stuff for free. I personally use Adobe Photoshop, which I know is not free, but if you can't get Photoshop, there are a lot of great alternatives out there. I don't personally know their names, but I'm sure someone in the comments section will let everyone know. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It may take a while before you get a good design aesthetic, before you're getting good at cropping things correctly and making things flow the way you want them to, but try it out for a little bit. The great thing about graphic design is if you don't like your design, you can always start a new one. Granted, it is kind of risky when you're doing it with a graphic cover for a custom bind, but it's a long-term game. The CBD is a long-term commitment. It's a long-term cult. So it may take a while before your graphic designs turn out to be the way you want them to be. So here I'm just showing, I used trade paperbacks here. They were really cheap. I got damaged copies off Amazon. Pages were totally fine. It was just the front, the actual, spine cover, the book cover rather, that was damaged. It had a little crease in it and the corners were a little dinged up, but the pages were totally fine. So I'm going to be able to do a little young animal anthology here, with a few mini series. Not a big deal. Prepping trade paperbacks is really easy. All you do is put hot air to the spine. Eventually the glue lets loose and you can just separate the pages. Some binderies don't even need you to separate the pages, and what's cool is you can add little bonus content to the end, things like about the author or variant covers that come in these trade paperbacks and whatnot. Here are single issues, so same thing. I removed the last couple pages. Everything else sort of stays the same. You just leave it in the order you want them to bind it in. With modern books, it's a bit tougher to save pages with removing ads. They don't seem to do double-sided ads anymore. They've caught on to the custom binding game, and they've started doing 2-page spread ads or, waterfalled pages, so you can't get those 2-page spreads, typically two-sided ads within an actual comic, but the last couple pages you'll be able to take off. And you do 20 or so issues, that's 40 pages at least that you're removing. You could slip in another couple issues there, so it definitely makes a difference. Let us know what other tips and tricks you guys have when you're making custom binds, how you save money. Let us know what you thought of the tips in this video, and as always, thank you all very much for tuning in. Check out Organic Price Books for your newest releases and upcoming hardcover comic releases, along with trade paperbacks. And until next time, as always, you stay classy, internet. Thank you all for tuning in.